Hello Year 9, welcome to GCSE History. So my name is Mrs Giles, I'm the Achievement Director of History and Politics here at Harris Chafford 100. So I'm going to talk you through on the next few slides what GCSE History is all about to help you make a more informed decision. And we'd very much like to have you join us in September to start your GCSEs. So as you can see from the first slide here, our exam board is Edexcel. So that means that the exams we're sitting will be set by the Edexcel exam board. Now, the most common question that we get asked is, two things actually. Firstly, what will we study? And secondly, how will we be assessed in history? So there are 3 exam papers which are taken at the end of year 11. They all happen towards the end of year 11. So we study the different topics over the course of year 10 and into year 11, and then we're examined on them at the end of year 11. So the very first paper that we sit, paper 1, and the first thing we learn about is crime and punishment. So this is in Britain, and we go from the year 1000 all the way up to present day. And this includes a study looking at policing in Whitechapel. Secondly, we do 2 separate topics, but they are on the same exam paper. Okay. We look at Cold War and we look at Henry VIII and his ministers. So there are 2 different topics on this paper. The paper's split into 2 different booklets and we answer each booklet separately during the exam. And then the very third topic that we do is Weimar and Nazi Germany. So we're looking very much at life in Germany before Hitler came to power, and then obviously the impact that Hitler had and the development of Nazi Germany itself. So why should we actually study history? History is one of the most important things that we have as a society, as a community. As we can see here, this quote from Martin Luther King, he says, "We're not makers of history, we are made by history." And he's very much right in what he says. Obviously, we aim to make history very much an enjoyable and interesting and challenging subject for all of our students in all the topics that we study. As part of that, we'll be looking at a range of individuals and events throughout history, which are obviously absolutely fascinating and also quite different to our life today. However, what is important to remember is that these things that we're learning about the people and the events have helped shape the world that we have today. So this is going to help us to understand how and why our society, our communities, our countries, and the world itself has developed in the way that it has over time. History itself is also a really highly valued academic subject. So should you choose to progress into 6th form, go to college, or even progress on to university, history is seen as a very, very highly regarded subject. And the skills that you'll learn, for example, reasoning, communication skills, these are going to be skills that you can use for the rest of your life. So let's look a little bit more detail at the actual papers that we're going to do and the topics we're going to study. So we can see here, this is paper 1, our crime and punishment from the year 1000 to present day. So you can see here that we're going to be looking at crime and punishment across a range of different time periods, going from the medieval England period all the way up to present day. And that is very much looking at modern methods. So you can see here on our examples, we have some examples of tags and hacking, which are obviously very, very modern crimes and punishments. But also we can see on our slide here, we have some examples of trial by ordeal. So for example, the middle picture, a young lady being tested for witchcraft. So we're going to be covering a very broad range of things across this topic. And it's absolutely fascinating because we'll be looking at how crime and punishment has developed and changed over the course of that time. Our second paper, paper 2, is going to be the paper that has 2 different topics on it. So we have our period study, which is looking at the Cold War. So we're going to be very much looking at how the Cold War and the relationship between America and the USSRs, or what we might know as Russia, developed during that time period, so after the Second World War. And then our British depth study, we're going to be looking at King Henry VIII, who we might remember from Key Stage 3, perhaps Year 7. And we're going to be looking at his government and his ministers and how he led the country. And also the impacts he had on religion through the Reformation. And then lastly, our paper 3 is our modern depth study, where we're looking at Weimar and Nazi Germany. So we'll be looking at what Germany was like from the end of World War I going into World War II. We'll also during that time be looking at how Hitler came to power, how the Nazi Party developed, and then once they are in power, how that impacted on life in Nazi Germany. I think we can agree all three of those papers certainly look interesting. So where can history take you then? Beyond obviously the classroom, beyond learning about our past. There are such a range of jobs and careers that you can use history for. Just because you've studied history doesn't mean you have to be a history teacher. There are so many other things you can do. You could go into marketing, advertising, law. You could go into the civil service. You could choose to actually become a teacher yourself. Whatever you choose, the skills are hugely transferable. So do you want to be challenged to study the world around you by examining the past in different ways? Do you want to explore the impacts of events from centuries ago? Do you want an insight into how the world works today? Do you actually enjoy reading, forming different opinions, being able to articulate your own opinions and justify using evidence? Do you want to develop your communication and your written skills? Then if so, we absolutely want you for GCSE history. And you will thoroughly enjoy spending 2 years learning about these fascinating events and individuals. If you have any questions, feel free to email me on e.giles1@harrischafford100.org.uk, or you can talk to your history teacher and they'll be able to help you in more detail. Thank you very much, Year 9. I hope you've really enjoyed listening to the video, and we look forward to seeing you in September.